Pink Table Talk. My name is Dana Johnson. I'm your host, and joining me today for our special The Pink Table Talk Goes Red in February is Vivian King.
Hello, everyone.
I am so honored to be able to have her here with us yet again. We've interviewed Vivian back in 2023 when we talked about her book, which we'll share with you a little bit later in the segment. But this time around, like I said, she is our Black History Month maker. And we are just honored to be able to just get some insight and to share her story with you. So, Vivian, what does Black History Month mean to you?
First of all, Black History Month is so important because Black history is American history. But for me, it affirms who I am and who our people are because we have created so much and brought so much to America. We definitely need to be recognized for it and reminded because our kids need to realize all of the things that we have done and all of the talents that we have so that they know that's in them, that's in their DNA, and they too can create.
Wonderful. And in the conclusion of our segment, I want to just spotlight and let you all know that Vivian is an accomplished author and she is the reason why Black history is important and why you should go out and purchase her book as a Black author. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome back. Today we are talking with Vivian King, author, entrepreneur, and just all around wonderful individual. She is our Black History Month spotlight for the Pink Table Talk Goes Red in February. We are here today at Lee Alexander's Private Cigar Lounge. So shout out to G for making this happen for us. And we also have a surprise for you. We have a live studio audience that has joined us, and we'll be paying it to them at the conclusion of our discussion for a couple of audience questions. So, Vivian, it is great to have you here joining us again for a seat at the table.
It's always great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. As we were talking off camera, Vivian and I were together back in 2023, and we talked about her first book. Now she's joining us with a children's series, so let's talk a little bit about that today.
Absolutely. So I want to say today, when we're recording this, it is the beginning of Black Children's Book Week. And so I have on this shirt that says that. And so all week long, I'm going to be on my social media telling you about Black children's books and asking you to support us by giving us a review or something like that, highlighting an author. You can highlight me if you want, that would be great, but I have so many fellow authors that need support as well. And so, I love the fact that this is a week that was started about 5 years ago. Veronica Chapman is the one who started this, and she also has a virtual museum, and it stays up all year. If you follow me on my social media, and we'll talk about that later, you can visit the museum yourself. It's really great.
That is wonderful. I wasn't even aware. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Absolutely.
And to our audience's attention as well. So, just a little bit of backstory of how Vivian and I became acquainted. I was an intern back in my college days with WTMJ4 locally here in Milwaukee, for those of you who are joining us from across the country. And at the same time as my intern days, I happened to come across this beautiful face and she welcomed me with open arms. So I'd like to just kind of take it back to your TV days. If you could share a little bit about that and what brought you here to Milwaukee.
So my TV job did bring me to Milwaukee. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Went to the University of Missouri Columbia, which has the oldest and we like to say the best journalism school in the country. My friends at Northwestern may disagree, but they don't know what they're talking about. We're always in the top three, either Columbia University in New York, Northwestern, and Mizzou, which is at Columbia, Missouri. But anyway, I went to various places. Alexandria, Louisiana was my first job. Tyler, Texas, Battle Creek, Michigan, and then I came to Milwaukee in 1995. I started when I was 2. Anyway, came in 1995, worked at Channel 4. I was hired as the education reporter, but covered all sorts of things as well. Ended up also anchoring the morning show for a while and then the midday show. I ended up creating a segment called Viv's View. And Viv's View was a lifestyle segment, which allowed me to do a lot of different things. Like Viv's View did lunch on Mondays because I love good food and I love great restaurants. Viv's View did Travel Thursday because I like to travel, and so I try to share different places where people can go. We interviewed local celebrities. I did a Mother's Day segment one time on celebrity moms. Got a chance to interview Eric Benet's mom because there are a lot of famous people from Wisconsin, and so I interviewed their moms. So then just did kind of fun things like that. Left there. Believe it or not, it's been 21 years since I was on the air, but people still come up to me and say, "You're the woman on TV," and I'm like, "Well, I used to be on TV." And when I say it was 21 years ago, I am shocking myself and dating myself, but I'm still young at heart, I think.
Yes. So you talked about loving good food. So as I was preparing for our conversation today, I mentioned to my teenager who is a pizza aficionado. And he heard me going through like, okay, what are some of the things you're going to be talking to Miss Vivian about? And I said, she always talks about this pizza place when she goes back home that she's gotta have. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it seems like I will be taking him to St. Louis at some point because he wants to know.
So that is Emo's Pizza, spelled IMO apostrophe S. I know the number by heart from my childhood. And it's a thin crust. I like thin crust pizza. And it's a St. Louis style because it was created in St. Louis and they use a specific cheese that they created called Provel cheese. And it's like provolone and something else. They just mixed it up and it has a distinct taste. And so there are some people who are used to mozzarella and that sort of thing. It doesn't have mozzarella on it. Really? It has Prevel cheese. Yes, it has Prevel. And so, you know, it's my favorite. And so I have even gone so far as to order it and they sent it to me FedEx. Now that was a little more cost prohibitive than I liked, but since then, you can go to St. Louis and order it half baked. Okay. And right before I left for St. Milwaukee, I would put it in my suitcase and come here, and it's still like I pop it in the freezer and I still have it. However, now they also sell in grocery stores in St. Louis, and so now that's the cheapest way. I pick up my pizzas, put them in a suitcase, bring them back. Last time I think I brought back 5. They're gone now, but it is my favorite. I usually get sausage pepperoni, but that's just me. It is delicious. I love it. Now there are some people, if they like mozzarella and they stick to that, they're like, this doesn't have pizza cheese on it. Okay, yeah, whatever. It's great though. I love it. I think Tracy, you've had it, haven't you? Tracy, did you like it? Tracy gives it a thumbs up.
You'll meet her later in the show because we're going to pan to her for an audience participation question. So that is awesome. That's actually our fave too. We're thin crust cheese, sausage, and pepperoni fans as well. So you mentioned a little bit about your travels. Can you tell us like what's one travel that sits in your mind that if somebody said what was your favorite destination that would just pop right into your head instantly?
East Africa.
Okay.
When I went to Kenya and Tanzania, it was, I don't have kids. And so I think when I talk to mothers, they're like, we love all of our kids, but we love them differently because they're different, right? Okay. And so I look at my trips as like my kids. And so I love all my kids. But there's some that stick out. They have their unique, they have their unique qualities. And so I just thought my trip to East Africa was phenomenal. We went to Nairobi, which is the capital of Kenya, and then we crossed over to uh, Arusha, where we were able to go to Mount Kilimanjaro. So we did about 2 miles up Mount Kilimanjaro. Then we flew to the Serengeti, which used to just be, just woods and forests, but it's their national park and they have hotels on there as well. And then when you go and stay there, when you drive from the airstrip to your hotel, it's a game drive. And so you will see elephants, you will see giraffe on your way to the hotel. You'll see just lions. You'll see everything. Everything is a game drive. And we were there for a little while. You have to. They tell you don't leave your hotels, which are like, kind of like little cabins. Don't leave that without at night without calling because they need somebody there to with guns. So, and then we flew to Zanzibar to an all inclusive, and which was a nice way to kind of end our trip since we had already been kind of up the mountain and we had already done some strenuous things. This was a nice way to really end it. So we really saw some beautiful things in East Africa.
I love that. So, for those of you who are interested in travel, Viv is by no means a giving out, telling you like different recommendations or being a travel agent, but I can tell you this: Vivian is a world traveler, and if you just need some information, I'm certain you could probably find her on her social media or out and about throughout Milwaukee, and she can tell you a little bit about some of the wonderful places that she's had an opportunity to visit. So, if I may, let's take it back
to my book,
to your
right?
book.
Yes,
Yeah.
I told you about Black Children's Book Week, but I didn't tell you about Grace Welcomes the Lady Next Door. Yes. Book one in the Growing Up Polite series. And so we talked about my book the last time, When the Words Suddenly Stop Finding My Voice Again After a Massive Stroke. I had to write that book, right? I had to write that book. But the original vision was I really want to write a musical one day. I'm not a musician, but I play piano. I love musicals. So that's one thing I want to do. And I want to do it about rude behavior. And so that's where this series came from because a friend of mine said, do you want to make an impact with your musical? Do you want to make money off your musical? And I was like, that would be nice. And he said, you should write a children's book series to seed the audience. Okay. And the kids will like your main character because my main character in the musical is a little girl. It's Grace, polite. And so that's where the children's book series came from. And so the first one is Grace Welcomes the Lady Next Door, book one in the Growing Up Polite series. Each book will have something that you're supposed to learn, some manners. Because I just think people are so rude these days. And, kids need to learn some manners. It just takes you farther, I think.
Oh, totally.
These days, our climate, they're looking at people who are adults behaving badly. And so I think the kids need to kind of, out of the mouths of babes, right? The kids need to show us some kind behaviors.
Would you do us the pleasure of reading a little segment from the book
sure.
to share?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll so I should tell you so Grace is a second grader and she and her family moved from Georgia to Michigan in the middle of winter. Um, and they do. Dad is trying to give them the backstory is Dad is trying to give them a fresh start because their mom passed away. They don't know this yet, but from breast cancer, or at least the audience doesn't know it yet. But she passed away from breast cancer. They'll learn that in some future books. But So he wants to give them a brand new start and they moved to Michigan. And so it's in the middle of winter and they're lonely. And so that's kind of where it starts. So I'll read just kind of like the first few pages. And so it starts. I watched the moving van pull into the driveway of the house next door. It had been empty since we moved to Michigan this past winter. I missed Georgia, but we had to move for Papa's sake. He was so sad when Mama died. I was sad too, and so were my little sister and brother, Hope and JoJo. But Mama had told me that she would always be in my heart and that I could talk to God about her through my prayers. I told Hope and JoJo this so we would talk to God about Mama each night before we went to bed. Mama couldn't talk to us, but we knew that God was listening. He's always a good listener. Our new home in Michigan was cold when we got here, and there was lots of snow. The snow was fun, but I still missed Georgia. In Georgia, the summers were nice and hot, and there was always a chance to get peaches. Even when we moved away in February, it wasn't too cold. Also, back in Georgia, we knew all our neighbors. We had plenty of friends to play with. And every time someone new moved in, we would welcome them with a pie or something to eat. We did not get the same welcome in Michigan. I continued to watch from the front porch and saw a gold sporty car pull up in front of the house next door. A pretty woman got out and began talking to the men who were in the truck. Well, so much for new friends to play with, I thought. We had a minivan. No kids could fit into the small car this lady was driving.
So now let's leave them with something to ponder over,
yes,
so that we can get them intrigued and get them to buy the book because ultimately that is the goal. So, as Vivian mentioned before, that this week kicks off what again?
Black Children's Book Week.
And what better way than to get your children involved and you yourself in reading to them or having them read it to you than to purchase her book? And especially during Black History Month, as Vivian being a Black author, and we want to be able to support her and just to continue to get this book out there and to just get noticed all throughout the state of Wisconsin, and for those of us who are visiting us from across the country, for you to purchase as well. Vivian, are there ways that if they are not local to Milwaukee that they can purchase your book?
Absolutely. They can go to vivianlking.com. That's my website, but it's also on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. And really, it should be wherever books are sold, but you can definitely go to my website or Amazon or barnesandnoble.com.
Awesome. So our target audience for the Pink Table Talk is spearheads for through my loss of my mom. So I began the Pink Table Talk as another way just to be able to connect with her from her battle with breast cancer. And I lost her in 2003. So it's great to be able to hear you talk about the fact that Grace's mom passed from breast cancer. So some of those ladies that are looking for books for them as well to be able to share with their families or nieces, nephews, cousins, or whomever, or maybe teachers may be interested in purchasing the book as well. Mm-hmm. I have her first book, When the Words Suddenly Stop, and I'm looking forward to purchasing this book because I substitute teach in my spare time, and this will be a great opportunity to be able to bring this to St. Monica's so that they can enjoy this book as well. So we talked about the fact that we have audience here with us. So we're going to cut for a quick commercial, and then we're going to pan out to the audience and see if they have any questions.
Hi, Vivian. I'm curious, where did you get the backstory about Grace's mother from?
Janet, that is a great question. And it comes from a friend of mine and yours, my friend Michelle Green. And Miss Michelle is in the book. Michelle had a friend named Trisha Polite. I have never met Trisha. She was in Atlanta and we became Facebook friends. And our friend Michelle is not on Facebook. But she says, you and Trisha are on Facebook, and we became Facebook friends. And Trisha had 3 kids, and she was just really the best mother. They did so many great things. And she became, and I used to tell her that I said, I need to produce a show for you called Growing Up Polite because their last name was Polite, Trisha Polite. And so she got breast cancer and we prayed and thought she was going to make it. She did not. So she succumbed to the disease and, that's where I got the idea for growing up polite because I said I want to talk about their family and just how great she was. And so she had three kids, two girls and a boy. And so that's where that story comes from. She passed from breast cancer, and so actually this book is dedicated to her in part as well.
I love that.
Okay, Viv. I know, I'm the rule breaker. I have two questions. So, what would you tell aspiring authors how to write uh, for children, children's books? And then, what challenges have you faced as an author of children's book, being a minority?
Tangela, thank you so much for that question. I would tell aspiring writers what everybody told me to just write. We all have stories, and our stories need to be told, and we need to be a part of books. Our children need to see themselves in books, and we're the ones who are going to have to do that. Now, as far as your second question, just really making sure marketing and making sure that people know about your book. That's always the challenge. It's a little easier for me because of the business that I used to be in. And so a lot of authors ask me, what did you do? How did you get to be on TV? Because with my first book, I was able to be on Good Morning America. Not able to be on Good Morning America with my children's book, but I have been on Channel 4. I have been in on different radio stations. And because I kind of know the language, it's easier for me to pick up, kind of what's happening, for the day or, to find an angle. So I just would say, getting the word out. It's a constant challenge and, other things are in our lives as well. And sometimes it's difficult to be out there, but I keep striving and keep pushing and keep finding opportunities like this with Dana, um, to get the word out and then word of mouth from you all, my friends, that helps as well.
Vivian, thanks for inviting us to be in your audience this evening. And I just want to first say, you know that I've already purchased your book for my 5-year-old grand twins. So they really enjoyed the book, especially Ava, my granddaughter. So I'm going to not give the spoiler alert about what happens later on in some of the other books, but I also heard earlier today too that you do enjoy traveling, and I was just wondering if you have any travel plans coming up pretty soon.
Bruce, thank you so much for that question. And yes, I do have some travel plans to get away from this cold weather, but it's because of the book. I have been I'm thrilled to say that I am receiving the International Impact Award for Grace Welcomes the Lady Next Door. And so it came out, the information and the announcement came in December, but they have a gala on Friday, February 27th. And so that's where we will get the actual hardware. So I'll get the nice statue. It looks pretty good from some of the videos that I've seen. And I'll be able to share with the audience what the book is about. And I'm just really excited that somebody thought this had some impact, and especially just all over the world. And so it's kind of global. And that's what I want this book to do. I want kids all over the world to be polite and to really be kind. we need kindness in this world, and it starts with our kids. Thanks for asking that question.
Vivian, I absolutely love the book. It was magnificent, a phenomenal read, and I'm not a little person anymore. I'm wondering, you mentioned that the book is a series, so what can we expect coming up?
Tracy, thank you so much. I'm so glad you love the book. And I know you're not a little person, but it is for the whole family. So I'm glad you like it. Because it's important for adults, if even if they're reading it to kids, that they like it as well, because you read it in an excited way. But as I mentioned before, each book, the title will have what kids are supposed to learn. So when you welcome somebody, what does the person say? Thank you. So the next book is how grace is going to be thanked. And so it's already been written. It's right now it's in I need an illustrator, and we're working through that. Because one thing I did not mention is my first illustrator, David L. Anderson, who grew up in Milwaukee and started drawing when he was 5. Never took an art class. He said his talent was God inspired. And so he passed away in December of 2024. And I was about to send him the second book, the treatment, so that he could start on that, but his mom had passed away. And so I didn't send it. And then when he was coming to uh, attend the funeral and be with his family, he landed, his friend picked him up, and he had a heart attack in her car. And so this next book is dedicated to him, and so I'm just in the search for the next David L. Anderson. I know it can't be David, but I really want to get someone who can capture the spirit of his illustrations, because he really put some thought into the illustrations. I told him kind of my vision, and then he took it away himself, and just the things that he added are just so wonderful. And so I want to get as close to that as possible. I know it's impossible to be exactly like that, but I want to find someone who can capture that spirit.
Thank you again for joining us for another episode of The Pink Table Talk Goes Red in the month of February. We are honored to be able to have our Black History Maker, Vivian King, joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun. I just love what you're doing with this.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. And just to be able to have the opportunity to have a in-studio audience with us, it was a pleasure to be able to hear their thought-provoking questions. So I appreciate you all for joining us today. And in closing, I'd like to just give a special shout out to Wally Jefferson, who is the new proprietor of Lee Alexander's Private Cigar Lounge. We thank him for the time and for the space today. And if you're ever in downtown Milwaukee, please stop through. Thank you.